game looking to fight back from a mild concussion and a heartbreaking loss to his former employer, the Atlanta Falcons. Trying to go 2-1, the Eagles took on the Giants, who were without a key star, Mario Manningham. Which bruised team would come out on top? The team who would make it through this game healthy would be the one who came out on top. Michael Vick went down with a broken hand in the fourth quarter after giving the Eagles a 16-14 lead. The Giants capitalized on the opportunity, dealing the Eagles a 29-16 loss thanks to 2 touchdowns from UMass graduate Victor Cruz. Now let's toss it over to the back talk set. Guys, what do you think about this injury to Michael Vick and the Dream Team Eagles?
Well, Jimmy, for starters, I think Vick was a huge factor in this game. I don't know if you know this, but going into the fourth quarter, the Eagles were winning 16-14. But then Vick went out in the fourth quarter, and they just lost momentum. So I don't even think it's just losing the skill of Vick. I think it's losing that leadership role for Michael Vick.
I think there's a lot to be said to that when your starting quarterback goes out. And obviously they didn't put any more points on the board, so their offense went out the window as well. How do I feel about Michael Vick going down? You know, I'm not a big Michael Vick fan.
Nobody is.
That's not true. Oh my goodness, that is so not true,
oh,
Dylan.
Come on, no,
there's
the
a
dog
ton
fighting and all
there
that.
There are a ton of Michael Vick fans out there.
I'm not one of them.
Well, it doesn't mean just because you're not that there aren't a ton of them
Only
out
people
there.
in Philadelphia are Eagles fans.
That's not true, though.
I mean,
he's got a following, a nationwide following.
He doesn't. Yeah, because people want to see which dog he kills next.
Well, I think that's behind him. Okay.
I'm not so sure.
Well, I think it is behind him. I think that he's definitely learned his lesson.
All right, moving on.
Over $100 million later, and a few months in the penitentiary will do that to you. Not surprised, actually. I think that the Giants won. That's a very physical game any day of the week. Giants are a more physical team than the Eagles. What? Can you explain something to me? Because, you know, sometimes I have issues.
Sure.
Why is Max referring to the Eagles as the dream team? Do you know why?
Huge preseason hype. Michael Vick, that defense was supposed to be the #1 defense in the league.
Okay.
It let up 29 points.
So that's the dream? I don't get it. Max, can you explain more to me about the dream team?
Well, I'm just telling it like it is. I mean, all I see all over TV and all over the radio, the Eagles are the greatest thing since sliced bread. You have the greatest quarterback ever, the greatest running back ever. Deshaun Jackson can't be touched. And look at this defense with Asante Samuel, Nnamdi Asomugha. What could be better? That's all I hear. And all I hear is them being called the dream team. So that's what I'm going to do, refer to them as until they show me they're not.
Can you pronounce Nnamdi Asomugha? What was that?
Nnamdi Asomugha.
Yeah. Okay, so it's pronounced Nnamdi Asomugha, first of all, Jimmy.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I know, I wanted to see if you could do that. That was very good.
But, you know, I
Can you spell it?
No, I
Sorry.
cannot spell it. I definitely agree with Max. You know, they were so overhyped. I mean, there was way too much pressure on them. They're all great performers, but there's way too much pressure on them. You can't put that much pressure on a team.
So how do you think they're going to perform this year? They're 1-2 right now. Are they just going to collapse?
You know, I think they might, with Michael Vick first having that concussion, then having this broken hand. I don't know how it's going. Even the defense just looks struggling. Michael Vick is their leader. Without him, they're pretty much nothing.
Michael Vick, their leader, who sold the most jerseys out of any NFL player last season, Dylan?
Right, exactly. Because he has no fans
'cause he
around
has
the
no-
league. You know what I mean? Except
I'm
in
just
Philadelphia.
making a point here.
It was the wrong point to make, but that's okay. That's why we love you so much, Dylan.
Oh,
you know?
thank you, Jimmy.
What else you got, Max?
All right.
I noticed we haven't talked about one team in town.
Yeah, let's move on to the most negative story, not only in baseball, in all of Boston, but it feels like all of the world right now. 1.5 games is all that separates the Red Sox from a collapse of epic proportions. If that pressure was not enough, they took on the rival New York Yankees in Yankee Stadium this afternoon. Running on fumes, could the Red Sox hold on with a desperation win? Well, the answer is pretty much no. The game was all Yankees early as the Sox fell behind 4-0 by the end of the third inning. Terrible play from Jared Saltalamacchia and a wild pitch from Tim Wakefield led to the first 2 runs for the Bronx Bombers. The Red Sox did fire back with 2 solo shots by Jacoby Ellsbury, but it wasn't enough in this one. They had nobody on base. The rest of the Sox bats were in hibernation as the Yankees went on to win 6-2. So pretty much the Red Sox have just completely fallen apart. There is no positive that you can take out of this. And now, with a 1.5 game lead over the Rays, and the Red Sox playing later on tonight, if they lose, it's a 1-game lead. Things are not looking good right now. Our very own Dylan talked to Jerry Trupriano earlier. Let's see what they had to say.
Hi everybody, I'm Dylan Volman here with my good friend Jerry Trupriano. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm good. You?
Very good, thank you. Now I'm going to jump right in it. We're going to talk some Red Sox today, okay?
Are you depressed?
Very depressed. And my first question is for you is, what do you think is causing this collapse for the Boston Red Sox?
Well, the pitching hasn't been very good, and then the hitting hasn't been very good. Other than that, they're pretty good, aren't they?
Yep. I mean, they've beaten the Yankees more times than they've beaten the Red Sox this year.
Right, but it's not how you start out. Well, in a way, it is how you start, but it's also how you finish. So if you're not playing very well in the month of September, something's wrong. And I look at both elements. I look at the offense, which has struggled, and especially the pitching, both the frontline pitching and the bullpen.
Now, you talked about that bad record in September. The Red Sox have the worst record in September since the 1962 Mets. Okay? How do you think that has been a factor for the Red Sox? Just are they focusing on September in general, or are they trying to avoid thinking about September and trying to think about the season?
No, they're not focusing just on September. They're just playing bad. They're not able to hit. They're not able to stop the opposition. They've got guys struggling. They've juggled the lineup now with Crawford moving to second, and they've dropped Gonzalez down to fifth. It's just a bad run right now, and they're in danger of not only having the worst September since the '62 Mets, but having their own club worst September since 1926, and that's 1 year before Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs. So it's been a long time. Right now, as we speak, they have the half-game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays for the wild card lead, but obviously there's the sense of panic over there. They're bewildered. Certainly, they've got some injuries with Euclid and with J.D. Drew, who's been out most of the year. But what's happened to Lester? What's happened to Beckett? Why is this club struggling in September? I wish I had the answers.
Yeah, now you talked about injuries with Clay Buchholz and Kevin Euclid. That has certainly been a big factor. And I think Clay Buchholz has, thrown off the bullpen with him being out. What do you think?
Well, the bullpen for most of the year was pretty good, remember, but they've had to work a lot of innings. And I think you look at John Lackey. Here's a guy who used to pitch a lot of innings for the Angels when he was there, but he's become a 5-inning pitcher, a 6-inning pitcher with the Red Sox. And you couple that with Wakefield's struggles and some of the other starters. And, that bullpen appears burnt out. I think the only other guy today, other than Wakefield, to give up runs was Matt Albers. And he was lights out for up until mid-July or so, and then he struggled. And you've missed Wheeler. Jenks has been non-existent. He's been hurt. So that bullpen has been taxed. If it wasn't for Aceves, they may not even have the lead right now. He's been a blessing coming out of that bullpen.
The Red Sox are having what I like to call a collapse. Another memorable collapse for the Boston Red Sox was the year of 1978 when they dropped that 14-game lead on July 18th, and it ended up they forced a 1-game playoff game. They gave up a 3-run home run to Bucky Dent, and the Yankees went Bucky Dent, yeah. And the Yankees went on to win that game 5-4. Do you think we're panicking so much that it's time to compare this to the 1978 collapse?
I think that you're going to hear not only comparisons to this, to the 1978 collapse, if this team does fail to make the postseason, but also the 1964 Phillies, who I believe had an 11-game lead over the Cardinals and the Reds heading into September. They might have even been up 13.5 games heading into September or mid-August, and wound up not making they didn't have playoffs back then. They had the 2 league winners met in the World Series, and they failed to qualify for the World Series. Now this is a collapse of historic proportions, potentially. They haven't totally collapsed yet, but also if this team does make it to the postseason, how good do you feel? How good do the fans feel? How good do they feel about their chances in the postseason? I mean, it's not like turning on a tap in the month of October and saying, oh, we're going to turn this thing around. If your pitching is scuffling and your hitting is scuffling, you know, if they make it, it may not be a very long stay.
All right, final question for you, Jerry. Do you think the Red Sox will hold off and take the lead for the wild card and make the playoffs?
Yeah, I do. I think even though the lead is a half a game as they go into the second game of the doubleheader tonight against the Yankees, they've got 3 games with Baltimore to end up. And they've always played well at Camden Yards. The Rays, I think, finish up against the Yankees, and that's not going to be an easy task. I think they'll make it. I just don't feel very good then going into the postseason, but this team can surprise you and turn things around. They've got a lot of talent.
All right, thank you, Jerry. That'll be it for us. We'll see you after the break for more K Sports Sunday.